hold up. You didn't hold up the book. Yeah, I know what the book is. I have it too, but I mean, we need to.
The book is all about, you know, look, here's the other part. The only way to make your present better, said Dan Solomon, is by making your future bigger. Chunking up, that's an NLP word. Chunking up the goal to its next quantum level up and making it 10x bigger forces you to find different pathways to get where you want to go. You ask different questions to different people. There are many paths to 2x or linear progress, which is one reason it's ineffective and overly complex to go 2x. There are few paths leading to 10x, making the goal simple and highly effective. Again, almost nothing will work for 10x, which is why it's so useful. So, in other words, and I'm going to share a PowerPoint that I have, and having all these conversations with these big shop leader, and I told Anita, I said, that's the problem. We got too many paths. We have to simplify it the way we used to do it. We had strict trainings, we had a strict focus, and we have standards. And so this is what I got. Let me share my screen. Um, I have to share my screen first. Screen one, share, and then press play. So I'm going to give you something. This is one of the things that I got this weekend. So building a big base shop, okay, what it is a culture, right? You know, being part of the Hispanic community for the HLC, one of the things that I've noticed is that our identity is not our rings, our cars. Our identity is our culture and our family, right? Even though I wasn't born in Puerto Rico, even though my father was raised in Boston, we still have a culture of family. We have a culture that, no matter how dysfunctional of your family members are, it's still family, right? And so, and I'm so proud because my kids, my daughter especially, has inherited, both of them speak Spanish. They're already third generation here because we put them in an environment and culture where my kids want to spend the night with their grandparents. My kids are always at my grandfather's house, at their grandfather's house, right? Because we have a culture. My mom won't speak to them in English. My daughter is a leader in college, the captain of a salsa team, right? I don't even know how to dance salsa. I play salsa, but I don't know how to, right? So the culture, what is a culture? A culture is an environment you create, right? And that culture has a lot to do with, from the smallest thing. Like, for example, again, I'm not harping on you guys because most of you guys are not part of my base shop, but culture is, man, a big base shop comes in and sets the environment. I heard an example of it's easy to believe the believable, but it's better to believe the unbelievable, right? And so faith is the hope, right? If you faith and hope in the book of Hebrews, it says faith is the hope of the things that are unseen as seen, right? So you need hope, but you also need faith. So when you come into an environment, guys, when most people want to be fed, right? Most people want to come to the office and want to be fed. Gordon's going to do a great training, blah, blah, blah. But what are you going to bring to the table? See, a big base shop, one of the things that I remember is our leaders are here early. That's a culture. We're early, we're setting the mood, we're setting the environment, right? And we're speaking what we want to do. I remember culture should feel natural, not forced, because someone said it should be, right? It should feel natural. Like, no, that's what we do. I got a guy from Jane Donald's team. His name is Demaine. Um, you know, and he said, "Okay, Ace, I need to sit with you. I need a plan because I want to do 10 by 10,000." I said, "Man, do you understand how big that is? Let me show it to you. Let me break it down for you and how it will be done." And I showed him let's start from the end. Forget the month. Let's talk about this week. And this is how it works. This is how many appointments have to be done. This is how many prospects you have to do. This is how you do it. So let's keep going. So strong culture doesn't happen by accident. If you're always talking about, getting a whole bunch of IBAs, but you're not talking about culture, hey, we don't take IBAs. I'm sorry, we don't take tests. We pass tests in this office, right? So that's a strong culture, right? So it's not just having, look, I'm going to say something that Steve Madison said on Wednesday. He said, you know what the biggest problem for America is? We praise and look at big base shop. So we chase premium, not profitability. That's a different culture. We chase premium, not profits, right? And so, and he gave an example where you have a big base shop, 69,000. These are actual RVPs that he's shown their numbers, 69,000, but they're not profitable. Why? Because they have a bad QBI. So what's the point of having a big base shop if you have a bad QBI? So it's not by accident. And listen, guys, one of the things that I tell people is you got to be able to chew and walk at the same time. If you stop and say, "Hey, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go on field training deployment until I get my license." Well, then you're going to make less money, right? That's a bad culture. No, you're going to go in the field. Otherwise, you're going to be at a 25% level, and then you're going to lose 50% of that because I don't work for free. Do you? Right? It's standards. We had standards in the culture that we grew up in, and we're gonna get it back. So what is a culture? See, it's a handful of things. Okay. L- l- Number one, we were always recruiting. My best recruiting months, we averaged about 60. Our best was 100. Okay. But we were always talking, creating a culture about recruiting, right? What is your heritage? What is your culture, right? And listen, I know Jay made a comment yesterday that, man, well, I didn't grow up in a big base shop. Well, neither did I. I didn't grow up in a big base shop. Like I said, Christian was his base shop was barely breaking $6,000 in premium. Now I was a new person. Okay, Matt, I was a new person, so I didn't know any different. So every time Christian would talk about his goals, he would talk about big goals, even though we're doing six recruits, 5,000, 3,000. His biggest cash flow month when I came in was $6,500 for the month. And I thought that was all the money in the world. But he started selling us on the big culture. And our full timers meeting, we was just four or five of us in his office. But we got it to a point where there was 100, 150 people showing up to every Monday morning managers meeting. We had a culture that if we did an op meeting, listen to this, if we had an op meeting, there was a guy that was a security guard he was a regional, but he was a security guard at the front desk. And if you walked into that, his name was Albert Heidman. Albert Heidman was in charge that if Matt walks into that office with shorts or hoodie, hell no, you're not walking in. He would say, excuse me, Gordon, who invited you to this meeting? Matt Johnson. Oh, I'll tell Matt Johnson you're going to reschedule because this is a business meeting and I'm sorry you're not properly dressed. That was a culture. See, now, not even the people are not properly dressed, they can't even turn on the damn cameras. You think I'm gonna take you seriously? That's not part of the culture. Now, I know if you're part-time, that's great. Congratulations. That's awesome. But I wasn't allowed to walk into the office with jeans. I wasn't allowed because we had a standard. Why? Gordon was a professional when he came into this business. So if I'm recruiting Gordon and you bring your guy with a tattoo in the face, nothing wrong with that, but I'm not recruiting him. Now Gordon's walking into the office. We're trying to create a big base shop culture, and Gordon's looking at this guy and say, "Wait a minute, what kind of meeting is this?" Are you with me? So recruiting has got to be massive quality of people. I'm telling you what I'm repeating what the guy last night. I said, you can't be recruiting 15, 20 year, I'm sorry, 18, 20 years. You should be anywhere between the sweet spot is 25 and 30. I'm not discriminating against anybody, Asians, so don't worry about reporting me. I get to choose who I want to work with. Number two, your prospecting has got to be something that is on purpose, right? So he asked me, How did you prospect? I said, bro, we didn't have any of this stuff. So I prospected in my warm market, in my farm market, but I also prospected in the white pages. Matt, I call the white pages probably 3 times from A to Z. Okay. I called every single number on those white pages. There was
What do you say when you
thousands.
call a white page?
Hey Matt, my name is Acevedo. How are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Hey, listen, the purpose of my call, your name came across my desk as somebody I might be interested in. I have an office here in the Gaithersburg area. I'm looking to expand, and I'm just looking for some folks, either part-time or full-time. Do you keep your options open if the money looks right?
Yeah, I do.
Fantastic. Well, listen, yeah, the goal here is to meet up. You might be a good fit for us. You may not. We might be a good fit for you. You may not. But at least it makes sense to get together for about 30 minutes. So what would be better, days or evenings?
Probably days, but what do you do?
I work in the areas of personal finances. By the way, what do you do right now? I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
I'm a garbage truck driver.
Awesome. Is that something you see yourself doing for the rest of your life?
Nah, man, that's why I'm listening to what you're saying.
What neighborhoods do you work? See, like I throw it back at him. I don't
Good.
entertain. I'm not going to get into, oh man, I work in
No, no, you're
personal
good.
finance.
I wanted you to
Okay.
just say something because it was recorded. Good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So the next thing, a culture's got to be where you want to get out of the cold market. If you're working the cold market, you want to get out of there as fast as possible. I hate it. I'm being honest. I hated prospecting face to face. I I do it today because I meet people all the time, right? But back then I was like really nervous about being rejected face to face. Now, referrals, you got to have a culture. You got to teach your people. I've got to teach my people about referrals and what's important about referrals, right? Listen, the other thing Maxwell always talks about is you have resources. If you've been around at least 2 years, 3 years, you have resources. Okay. POL resources. So, and I'm going to show you an actual slide of what my plans are um, from now to 227 and how we're going to build a whole new hierarchy. That's the goal, is build a whole new hierarchy. So the POL resources, if you have POL, you've got to use it. I was telling Domain yesterday, I was like, look, you prospect a name, put them in the system, put them in a 3-day follow-up, a 3-month follow-up. They're not interested now. How stupid is it that you took all this time to prospect somebody and said, well, right now is not the time. Okay, next. You crazy? Put them in the system. Hey, okay, fine. Matt, you're not interested right now. Would you mind if I follow up in 3 months? Things change all the time, right? Okay, fantastic. I'm going to put it in. What's your email? And then I'll put them on the follow up so that in 3 months, CRM will tell me, hey, boom, follow up with this guy. Okay. And so that's important. And with existing clients, guys, last month I wrote, I think 4,800, the month before 4,800. I got a referral yesterday from an existing client. Hey, by the way, my son has a kid. I think you should call him. Right. And so I'm going to call him today. So it's like, almost 10,000 in the last 60 days from the CRM. Okay, what's up, man?
Do you utilize the campaigns on there too?
Absolutely. They're automatically on.
Do you like any specific ones more than others?
Birthdays is a big one. They respond to birthdays. And then not only the birthdays is the other one is, annual follow-up.
Okay.
The annual follow-up and IRA season and obviously holidays.
They got one that's like a 6 email how money works that I like to use for people that I like, some of these cold people that are just prospects. It's like
Yeah.
5 or 6 emails that talks about how money works. But
Yeah.
that's thank
You
you.
don't want to bombard him.
No, yeah,
My assistant said that some of them are saying, "Hey, just I appreciate him staying connected, but too many emails." So I started disconnecting some of the campaigns. Hey,
good.
listen, competition, big base shop. I remember one time we had a fast start school. This is when Fox, who recruited Gordon, Fox, we used to compete with Brett Burks and Shaq and stuff like that. And I think that month, I think Fox did like 89,000 as a regional leader. And he swept. every category. And that wasn't a small school. And we're talking about heavy hitters, Samir, Shaq. These guys were in the prime back then. And I remember with Fox, Gordon, you were part of that team, right? When they swept.
Yeah, I don't think that Fox ever hit 89 that much because I think our biggest, we had the record at regional at like 54 for a long time.
54? Okay. All right. So I know you guys swept. You guys swept, and it was crazy because we were competing against other hierarchies. And that competition, man, just drove people crazy because, oh no, he beat Tony. That's the one. Oh, that was a fun one. I listen to this, Matt. So the competition is a culture of building a big base shop, friendly competition. So he beat Tony. Tony is his team is Tony the Tigers, right? So Fox comes up. He knew he swept. Him and his team brought Tony the Tiger cereal.
Frosted Flakes.
Okay. Frosted Flakes. And they poured it all over the stage. And he took a broom and started sweeping it to the side, right? I mean, it's like I was like, oh man. And I remember one time Tony walks into my office because Tony was the man back then, right? He's still the man, but he was the man. So I bought a little tiger. I put a little string on the tail and hung it up in my office upside down, right? I was like, so I knew he was going to walk in my office. He still walks
I
into my
remember
office.
that. I remember that.
And Tony's like, really? Right? It was competition. It was like, I'm gonna take Tony down. I'm gonna hang him by his tail. Right. I think some of that we're missing that friendly competition without talking trash. We never talk trash. Listen, I'll tell you another thing, competition. Tony and I were really close to becoming RVP, and all he needed was to pass the six, right? And he didn't pass it. And I said, so Tony, did you pass the six? He goes, nah, man, I didn't pass it. He thought I was gonna go, yeah. I was like, yes, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm going to RVP first. You might beat me in this, but I'm gonna go RVP first, right? We had that exciting culture of friendly competition, and then Christian would just sit back and watch it. See, you guys, we're attracting a lot of snowflakes. And people that are afraid of competing, people that are saying, look, okay, so now what I sold to Maine, I don't know if he's here, but what I sold to Maine yesterday was, look, 10,000 is $2,500 a week in premium. That could be one couple, right? Two $1,200 premiums. Okay. And two new associates. Well, how do you get the premium? We've got to get new associates. So how do you get the new associates? I do daily op meetings. Okay, so you should have two people every day on the op meeting, 5 days a week. That's 10. So how do I get 10 people in front of you during the week? Man, I got to probably prospect 20 people or 25 people. We'll break that down for the day. And then you become the copy. You become the master copy. See, that's all we talked about. We always talked about the master copy. We got to start talking about that. So people come in feeling uncomfortable that they're doing one by one, two by two. Your name won't even get mentioned in vain in a big base shop environment. Please call me. Please call me. No, no, we're not going to talk to you. I mean, we're going to pray, congratulate in the office. But if so, I said, Domain, now you do that and you work your ass off without taking here's the biggest mistake in a small culture, in a 2X culture. A 2X culture, the biggest mistake is we hire a person, we want to sit on like an egg and hatch out, a leader. No, the biggest mistake is you stop to get more, you stop getting more names, more numbers, more names, more numbers as you build your team, right? Recognition is a big deal. You know, recognition is a big deal. Like for us, once you get a license and you do, I think is 5,000 in personal premium, your first 30 days, we're going to give you an iPad, right? We're going to give you an iPad. Now, we used to do it at 10K, and I used to keep empty boxes in my office of tablets, right? Hey, man. And I put the names of the person who won that tablet, right? And then I still do this. We do the top producers. We're going to go out to either a dinner or lunch at a very nice restaurant. Now, you don't have to do that, but you can say, hey, top leaders, we're going to go to there's a pastry place right back here, right? License. My son, he was struggling to study for the SIE, right? And while I was in Georgia, we make a big mistake. I'm telling you, the culture, a culture. I'm talking about a culture, creating a culture for a license. Well, Ace, how do you do that? Here's what I told my son. I said, my son, listen, um, you're looking at this the wrong way. Are you taking this test simply because mom and I want you to do it, or do you really want it? He goes, no, I really want the license because I want to do the business after I finish my professional career in soccer. He speaks that way. I said, okay, can I share with you how I looked at it? Yes, Dad. I said, okay, listen, you know my story, Matt. My story is, I said, I'm talking to my son like he's a recruit because he is. I said, son, you know my story. I failed out of school. My son just made the National Honor Society in college, right? And he just transferred and got accepted to Penn State to finish his last year of soccer. Um, and he's smart. I said, I failed. I failed college. I wasn't a good test taker. I wasn't a good person to study. So how did I pass all of my licenses on the first try? Because I associated with money. Listen, I know Christian talks about helping people, helping. Listen, I came here for the money. I came here to get paid. It just so happens that we do a lot of good things for people, right? I wouldn't do anything unethical, but I came here for the money, son. That money could be worth. Look, I say your mom has a goal herself of making 100,000 on her own pen. Mom passed that test. The 65 is no joke. I failed that test twice. I said, well, at least I can override Anita, right? That's 65, Gordon, right? It's not an easy test. But you know what drove her? Making 100,000 on her own pen. Money, right? So the culture was, how quickly do you want to get that watch? When's the last time we talked about you should get that watch? Back in the days, Tony had a girl named I don't remember her, black chick that went out and got the $50,000 watch as a division.
Navia Plumber.
Yeah, plumber,
Navia
right?
Plumber.
Navia plumber. She got it as a district or division. Ursula got her watch as a division, right? And we started creating. What's his name? Miguel got his watch as a regional, right? Miguel, I think, still holds a record. Miguel, what did you do going out? Um, what did you do going out? RBP.
About 70 by 80 something, 82,
Seven,
80.
70 by 82,000, had the watch, and how quickly did you get the ring?
6 months after
Six
RVP.
months after 6 months after RVP. This is not like a 10 years and I'll get the ring. It should be very, very quickly. So Miguel, the culture, the competition, wasn't that competition? Now Miguel is a very laid back guy. He doesn't say much, but he'll come after you, right? And we need that fire again, Miguel, right? We need that fire. And so here's for the culture was how many are who's we used to recognize. We're going to continue. I don't listen. Jim Rohn says you look at the past for a lesson. I'm not living in the past. I'm saying, okay, what did we do, right? District promotions, man. The goal was, guys, guess what? At the September school, we're going to have the most districts walking the stage. A district, a real district. We don't promote districts. We don't give them plaques until they're a district with a license. They don't have a license, they're not a district. Okay, so that's important. Listen, the other part that's huge, biggest thing that I heard this weekend, Hector Lazo went to this event, was all they talked about was culture and your thinking and developing people. Okay? Thinking, training. So I told Domain, if you're gonna focus on recruiting 10 people, you need a self-development plan. By the way, how many of your team have you given them a self-development plan? Now, what is a self-development? It's not, I'm developing you. You got to give them a self-development plan. I've got to figure out exactly what Matt needs. What does Matt need to come here? Now, one of the things, guys, that I recommend is you gotta study people. You gotta study human behavior. You've got to study, you got to study why people do what they do. Now, you're not their psychologist, but the culture was, Matt is a very low key guy. So how can I get his energy up when he's presenting, right? Um, Two, next, creating heroes. That's the part, Gordon, I think we're missing right now is heroes. That's what we're missing. We're missing somebody. Now, we can look at the leader sheets, awesome, but we got to create heroes in this group. That's all we need. Listen, that's all we need. If you say, what was the pinpoint? What was the point where we just went, oh, now let me tell you, Matt, back in the days, back in the days, this is not that long ago, you got a 30% bonus on 30,000. So 30,000 today will pay you with a QBI. I saw it on the sheet, not including securities, about 163,000. Okay, with good QBI,
Okay.
a 30% bonus, it's 9,000 to start the month.
Right. Bad.
Okay, now it's like 10 by 10, and you get a 10% bonus. 20 by 20, you get a 20% bonus. Right. So we were driven to hit that number. See, when you're an RVP and you have an RVP, you do 10 and 50, you get an extra bonus. If you do 20 and 75, you get an extra bonus. Right? So I'm driven, it's like 30 by 30. That's why I've been talking to our guys. I want a big base shot, but it starts at 30, according to these RVPs. That's where it starts. That's not it. 50, you're almost there, and 100. I was having dinner with Mario Arizona. He said that he did 100 by 100 for 100. He did 100 by 100 120 times.
Wow.
He goes, Ace, it's the easiest thing. Running a big base shop is so easy because the guys, the leaders take over. Okay. So we got to create heroes in our base shops. Okay. And by the way, you don't have to be RVP to have a base shop. Use all different channels to create activity. Use all of them. But the best one is recruiting. Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know that is sharp? Who do you know that could be a good fit for us? Give me their name and number. Let's three-way text them. Use LinkedIn, right? Let's use Facebook. Let's use whatever we got to do to create that activity and get out of that. That's Hector Lamar. He said he never face to face. He just got good at creating activity, getting referrals, and building it that way. And I don't want to do that. I want to create activity. Okay, so that's important. Duplicate your top recruiters and your top producers. Duplicate them. Okay. Domain, I was sitting with him. All right, Domain. What's going on? Okay, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? And let's duplicate that. Right. The last two is leadership. Most people listen. The meeting that I went to, Matt, that meeting was not a motivational meeting. That wasn't a fast start school. That was company lawyers. That was the home office staff. That's field leaders.
Education.
And we talked. It was static. What is it? Statistical. Yeah. I sound like Omar. um, One of the things they said, listen, this is a huge number. He goes, one of the reasons why 95% of this is home office lawyers, Joseph Kerrigan. He's in charge of ownership and stuff like that. He's him and his legal team. We're talking about what is your business worth. You guys will be shocked that if you don't have full ownership, he says your upline controls the future of your office. He might be nice. He said, listen what he said. He might be nice and let your wife take over. But when money's involved, he said, forget it. So when I heard that, and he said it's not 10 times your money, whoever came up with that, that's a lie. So he said ownership, it depends on, and I was talking to Danny Chamorro, and he was telling me because he bought like 6 hierarchies, right? He goes, I would never buy a securities hierarchy. This is what he said to me. Because now I have to manage those funds. He said, however, I'll buy a hierarchy that the RVP doesn't have a base shop. Because a hierarchy, I don't have to manage money, but I can manage the RVPs because they're self-sufficient in the run. He says 95% of the RVPs never produce an RVP, ever. I was like, damn, I didn't know it was that high. Why? He says, leadership. You did all this work to get to RVP, but you lack the leadership, he says, you lack the leadership to be able to look. I'm going to be honest, the last few years I've lacked leadership because I haven't developed no RVPs. But that stuff has changed, okay? Self-development, okay? I'm not going to go through all 10 of my slides. I'm just going to do this one. This is the plan that me, Joe, and Henry, we were talking, because Henry does 100 by 100 also. My goal is this. Okay, so you got first, okay, Samuel, I came to this business to become an RVP. I didn't come here. I'm telling you, I swear to you, I was about to walk out the door when they started talking about the rule of 72, compound interest, life insurance. I didn't even know what life, when Frank, the guy who recruited me, called me, I mean, sat down with me and did an orientation and stuff like that. He said, do you have life insurance? And I honestly said, what's that? What's life insurance? I didn't know what it was because nobody ever talked about money in my house. But then I was like, I don't know if this is for me. But when Christians started talking about, mind you, there was only like 10 or 12 people, 15 people at the most at the first op meeting that I went. I thought this was the biggest thing ever in the world. Okay. And then he started talking about becoming an owner, having a brokerage, and he always pointed to a Maryland map that he had in the back of the room, and he had thumbtacks. See, he sold me the vision. Thumbtacks, boom, 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 boom. These are all the places we want offices all around the Beltway. So he sold me on that. I said, okay, how do I get there? How do I become a broker? How do I have and own my own leather chair? How do I be the man with the office key fob or the keys to the office? That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Okay. And so now the biggest mistake is once you go RVP, right? And you promote your first RVP. And I learned this from Frank Dillon. Okay. Frank Dillon is the man. He just went over 1.7. We talk on the phone like 3 or 4 times a week. He said, bro, this is all he told me. All you need is one person that buys into your vision and you get great at replacements. You'll never have to do it again. He said, Joe Tanzi was the only direct RVP that I personally promoted, but I have 26 direct RVPs and 165 RVPs in the hierarchy. And by the end of the summer, I'll have 3 new $1 million earners. He has a guy at 600. He has Henry at 800. He has another guy at 500. He goes, because once you go out there, you get an RVP and you get your first replacement. By the way, here's what he said too, folks, building a big culture. Replacement talk starts the moment they get their license. The beauty of the business. I used to talk about replacement. Every time I did an interview, I would write it on the grease board and I would say, here's the mistake. Because most of the brokers that we have now, like Miguel was a loan officer. Jackie was a real estate agent. Ursula was a real estate agent. Manuel was a real estate agent. Um, we had like an office. Why? Because of the mortgage crisis in 2008. This is where all these guys came in. And I sold Miguel. I recruited Miguel, not Ursula. I recruited Miguel, right, Miguel? I did the interview. You sat down with me because you said you didn't like George back then, right? So, I sat down with you, I recruited Miguel, and I sold him the vision. I said, look, the biggest mistake that's going on in real estate is that you can't duplicate yourself unless you leave the company and start from scratch. In our business, Miguel, what happens is you become an RVP, you get your first RVP promoted. That replacement, the first replacement, should be a good enough replacement where you maintain your base shop. That RVP, the new RVP leaves you two replacement. Your base shop doesn't suffer. That's the biggest mistake. The base shop suffers when you promote an RVP, unless those two replacements are not manufactured. Okay, my two replacement were manufactured. Okay, and I wasn't able to continue to promote RVPs. So So the goal here is if you do that and then you set the standards where you say, okay, look, the base shop premium plus the promotion should be doing, and again, these are notes from the RVP Henry and stuff like that, 60 by 60. They should be doing 60 recruits, 60,000. Your first gen, because they left you the replacement, they should still be going out doing 30. Here's why. And I'm gonna finish. I don't have time. Let me stop sharing. So what happens is that 60 by 60 is the regional leader going out. Now here's why: if you're a regional leader, and you want to, if you just want to make money, okay, you don't want to build people and stuff like that, fine, cool. That's your choice. Nobody is saying no. My good friend Vito Fortuna, he's at 966,000. He has three RVPs. That's all he has. And he does millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of securities in the small island of Puerto Rico, right? But when he heard what Joseph Kerrigan said about ownership, he said, I made a commitment. I want to become a recruiter as I build my securities business, right? Um, so that 60 by 60 uh, is where that should be your target. How do you do it? You get 10. And then Frank always says you work with four people. Give 80% of the time of those four people direct to you and indoctrinate them. So that's what I've been talking about. And that's what I'm always going to talk about from now on. Jay liked it, right, Jay, on Saturday? Because it's like, so Miguel went out doing 80,000. But when Miguel went out, he got the ring quickly. Now imagine if Miguel went out doing 20 by 20. He's going to have to give a couple of replacements. Now, my team knows I'm going to take two or one strong region. I'm not going to take two districts. It ain't going to happen anymore. That crap ain't working. I don't care if they got 10 licenses, right? So that's the reason why Miguel was able to get the ring very quickly, because after he went out, he was still kicking butt. And by the way, Miguel left three replacements, and all three replacement were doing like 20,000, 15,000, 20,000 outside of Miguel. So that's when he did 80. He gave up like 40,000 for almost $50,000 in premium. Are you with me, right, Miguel? That's what you did. But when Miguel came into my office, we weren't doing those numbers, but we were selling that. Hey, this is where we're going to go, right, Miguel?
Yep.
So we were doing like in the base shop, 20,000, maybe 20,000. But when we started really, you got to, folks, you got to speak it into existence. You got to 10X everything you do. You got to 10X. If you're used to waking up at 8, wake up at 7. If you're used to not turning on the camera, make that decision. I'm going to turn on the camera. I'm going to 10X my presence, right? If you're used to, hopping in late or leaving early, man, change that. So yes, Gordon.
Awesome. Good stuff. To change the culture, I think where we need to focus is to change our prospecting and personal recruiting numbers. And then helping teams do that. It's like, focusing on who's showing up, who wants to get better, helping them get their 2 to 4 directs. You get your 2 to 4 directs, right? And when you do that, you can help a team. If you're getting 2 to 4 directs, then you can start focusing on DDR. So if you're the RVP and you get your 2 or 3 or 4 directs, you want to find one of those guys to dive in with and help them get that new group to 10. Does that make sense? Same thing with anybody that's in here. If you want to change, your culture, your
My
organization,
culture, yeah.
yeah, it's about getting Shonda's team to get 2 to 4 directs, and then it's about focusing on helping get those 2 to 4 directs to 10. Because Shonda with the raw, the raw tools, the raw, what's it called? The
Talent.
raw talent. We know that Shonda can write business. Does that make sense? But what
That's
would
right.
transform the Patterson organization is double-digit recruiting. And what would change
100%.
transform, Jay and Dominique's organization is get their 2 to 4, and then Ace or whoever helping them get the double-digit. Because then if you build double-digit teams, I know that Jay and Dominique are going to write some business.
Yeah.
I got a good feeling that even if they're not great, they're going to get 3, 4, 5,000 out of that. Same thing, Kevin Williams. Kevin, if you just say, hey, look, you know what? I'm not showing up for just my health. I'm showing up because I'm ready to get 2 to 4 directs. Well, let's tweak that. Let's work on that together, Kevin, to get you 2 to 4 directs. And then let's dive in and get double-digit recruiting. Does that make sense? Because I know Kevin can write some damn business.
And this is what you're talking about, right?
The raw talent. Yes. Yep.
That's what you're talking about right there. You get 3 and you focus on going deep after that.
Yeah. And one thing I want to share as we're wrapping up here, if I can also interject this last thing, I've had some people ask me, how do I set a challenge? Well, it's simple. And I just sent out 2 challenges because we haven't been doing them. And I'm like, let's figure out some way. So that's POL. You click the app up here, Primerica app, however you want to get to it. Once you're in the app, underneath the 3 bars, the hamburger, go to rewards and recognition, go to Fight Club. And then under Fight Club, you can issue a challenge. So, and then you can look up Find Rep. You can look them up online. I think somebody put Kyla's up there the other day. But if you're a division, compete with maybe a division. Or if you're a district, maybe pick on a division. You know what I'm saying? If you're a regional, pick on another regional. Go out there and say, hey, you know what? I'm not right now. If I'm looking at our challenges, we're taking the punching bag to the face. Christian's punching me in the face, and so is Tony Reyna. Denise Murphy's leading the team. If we had somebody on our team decide to challenge Denise Ellis, regional team, maybe it's too big a foe, an opponent, but Denise is at 2,300, Beth at 1,000. So then it's like, okay, who can you challenge? And in Tony's team, somebody should challenge Arlene. I don't know who Arlene is, or Anna, but just a thought. So all you got to do is go to issue challenge and let's get some small competitions going, right? Let's get somebody to pick a fight with Jay, somebody to pick a fight with Tambria and Kevin and whatever.
I already picked a fight with Jay.
Perfect.
Whoever else wants.
Who's winning? Are you willing
Jay's
to pull it up
winning.
and show
No,
us?
Jay started out ahead.
Ace, I interrupted you. Do you want to land the plane? I'm sorry.
No, I was done.
That was yeah. So just reinforcing that. Let's go get to 2 to 3 to 4 directs for you guys that are here that are playing this month. We got 2 weeks. Anybody want to
100%.
share their Fight Club 27 BGH? Jay's putting it out there if anybody else wants to challenge Jay. 11 VYC. You got to have some courage too. It's about getting uncomfortable. If you're here, you want to get uncomfortable. It's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym to sit on the couch and watch people. Does that make sense? You go to the gym to lift some weights, which is uncomfortable, and to push some more weights. This is what we're talking about today in our business. It's pick some challenges, pick some something that's going to make you stretch. And Allison, find somebody to compete with. Allison,